Waiting for music.
Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 351. We are recording this and broadcasting live on Sunday, December 13th, 2020. I'm David Lott. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson.
Hey, what's up? Long time no actually see.
This is true. Yasha Wilson is also here.
Hey, everybody. In the flesh. Good to be seen and see you guys.
And unfortunately, Michelle cannot make it to the show tonight, so it is just the three of us. But yeah, it's been a little bit since we've been on YouTube, at least where you can see us. Just audio-only shows on there lately. But how's it going, guys? Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good.
Hell
It's
yeah.
actually good to be back on YouTube, have a little video action going along with the audio. So hopefully some people will go over and jump on and see us there and subscribe and like and follow us all on the YouTubes and the audio when you're in your car.
True. Yeah, you can reach us, the podcast version, if that is your thing, on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, the iHeartRadio app. But yeah, we broadcast the show usually every Sunday night on YouTube, youtube.com/Flicker Effect. If you are listening to this and you're interested in actually checking out the YouTube channel, please make sure to do that. With that, there is a ton of Disney stuff to talk about today. It's probably going to take up the entire show. We could probably stretch the show for a couple hours if we wanted to, but we're going to try to squeeze this down into an hour. And
Yeah, I think an hour is good.
I think we can do it in an hour. It's our challenge for
I
the
think an
night.
hour is good.
With that, we should probably jump right into it. And to do that, I'm going to turn things over to you, Bobby. And maybe you could fill us in on what the hell happened at Disney Investor Day.
Yeah, so Disney had their Investor Day, as you said, and basically the event was to give investors an idea of what's coming down the pipeline for Disney. And this has only been a year into the service. And so far, we've only really, in terms of big IP, had something from Star Wars, which was The Mandalorian. In this Investors Day event, they said, well, we're going to trot out everything for you guys to get excited about and invest more money. And pretty much it did work. I think the stocks went up. I forget how much it was, 4 or 5% the next day. Maybe Yasha or someone can double check those numbers. But yeah, it was very, and there was a lot of stuff announced on the Disney animation side. And there was a lot of stuff announced for the Pixar, Lucasfilm, and Marvel. So for the interest of what we're usually into, I'll kind of forego the Disney and the Pixar stuff and kind of jump mostly into the Marvel and the Lucasfilm, because that can fill pretty much the entire time itself. Although I do want to note one thing that they did mention that was of particular interest to me, because I had been having this conversation with someone recently, and that it feels like even though Disney owns the majority of Hulu, they hadn't been leveraging it much for anything, or their Fox properties that they had acquired. And one of the things that they did announce was that they will be doing an Alien series on FX Hulu that will be in development with Noah Hawley and Ridley Scott. That from the very little bit that they gave us, that it will take place on Earth. They didn't give a time frame and anything beyond that, but I'm happy to hear it, because I was like, you've got all this Fox IP. You might want to try and use some of it for something, in the same way that you're using all the other arms of your Disney properties to be able to bring out different series that are known quantities, and this is definitely one. And I would expect at some point maybe they could do something with Predator as well as another big IP that they own. So this was interesting, and I thought that was kind of cool, especially when you have Noah Hawley working on it. For those who may not know the name, you may know some of the stuff he's worked on, like Fargo. He also did Legion, that was on FX. And yeah, he's definitely one of those premier artists that are working in the television medium. So it'll be interesting and exciting to see what he brings to the table. I don't know if you guys had heard that announcement, and I'm curious what you think about it if you hadn't heard it or if you have.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad you brought that up because even though there's a ton of stuff to be excited about, the Alien thing in particular, I think is probably one of the things I'm most excited about, which might be surprising considering how much of a Star Wars fan I am, a Marvel fan. But no, the idea of an Alien show on FX, I don't know, especially with again, was it Noah Hawley?
No, Holly.
Yeah, with him on board, yeah, that I find that exciting.
I too am looking forward to it. But to jump into what you were asking about the stocks went up about 14% after Disney
14.
dropped all
Okay.
the news of what they're developing up to trading as usual, but about $175 a share for Disney. So that's a pretty big jump. I own a little bit of Disney, not crazy amounts. Like I'm not like stoked that I was like, oh my god, I own 100 shares of Disney, but I do invest in
Hmm.
Disney. So like seeing that it went up a little bit like that is kind of exciting. I don't think they'll break the 200 mark, but anyways, to follow to the Alien thing, I'm also excited to hear that they're doing some a little bit exploring some of their intellectual property as well. And I like FX shows, and I think that this could have a lot of really strong potential if they do it right. What I'm hoping for is that we don't actually get like another Falling Skies scenario. You know, that was kind of a campier
Hmm.
type of special effects alien show. While it was entertaining for a while, I'm hoping that it just isn't that level of cheese. If they put, most of their production budget into, I would be happy with a 6 to 10 episode, you know, season if they put the production value behind each episode to really basically give us mini movies of Alien and the adventures of them on Earth. I don't necessarily need to see another apocalyptic type of scenario where everything is desolate and we're all just trying to hide and have all these different type of um, subcultures, I guess you could say, or cities, basically running around and, running with our own rules. I really just want to see the aliens kind of integrated with us and trying to fight them off as best as we can, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious just because being on Earth, and I've always sort of hesitated on the idea of any of the alien stuff taking place on Earth. I've always liked it in space or on some other planet. So uh, if they have it on Earth, it just I've always thought that it ran the risk of being a little too familiar in terms of settings, and make it like almost where Predator 2 was when it's in the city. I
Mhm.
never really cared for that idea of it. I like the jungle setting and whatnot. So it's sort of
Mhm.
similar there with Alien, where I like it on a different world or something that's foreign that doesn't look too familiar. So I am
No,
I
that's
am
fair.
seriously interested to see how they handle it with it being on Earth.
I actually really enjoyed the last Predator where they were in on the other planet with all the different people and, like you said, another planet and with Topher Grace is the one that I'm thinking of. I really liked it. I thought it
Predators.
was a yeah, fun movie. Oh, that was Predators, not Aliens. Sorry. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I enjoy the aliens on other planets in space as well.
So that was the main one that I remember hearing about. There was another one, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with it. That was announced for FX. It's called Shogun. I guess it used to be an older series. That's
I
being
know
developed.
Shogun.
It says
Cool.
with Justin Marks and Rachel Kondo. Um, I didn't watch that before, but it sounds like an interesting subject. Shogun. I don't know anything about it, but all they showed was a logo. So I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of the original Shogun?
I haven't, to be honest.
I want to say I have. I think it's an older show that my dad used to had talked about periodically, but I can't
Hmm.
be. I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah.
So I am
I
relatively
feel
familiar
like
with
it.
it, but
I feel like it's probably in the vein of Kung Fu, like the old TV series or
yeah.
something. I don't know that for sure, but that's kind of the vibe I get from it. So yeah, so going into the meat of the stuff, starting off with the Lucasfilm, one of the first things that they did, they had Kathleen Kennedy come out, and she was announced and talking about the success of The Mandalorian and how well that's done, and that there will be two spinoffs coming from that. One was called Rangers of the New Republic, and the other is Ahsoka. And for anyone who's been watching any of the stuff going on with The Mandalorian, it just felt like we were probably going to get something more with the Ahsoka character, just because of the way she was introduced and who's playing her in Rosario Dawson. So you don't really sign someone like that to play this character for a one-off thing. You just kind of know that it's going to be something a little bit more meaty and hefty, and that's what they did say, that we were getting that and confirmed that that is in fact going to be a series. If you jump back, David, to the picture for the Rangers of the New Republic, so that one we know less about because literally she just said it and she didn't give any detailed information about it. Popular speculation is that it will have something to do with some of the characters we've already seen in the Mandalorian forming together as being almost like New Republic space cops or cops on a particular mission, and you might get some of the characters that we've seen that were one who was there was a couple episodes ago where you've seen an X-wing fighter that's been in a couple of these episodes that's interacted once with Cara Dune and then once with Mandalorian on the ice planet. And so they were saying like maybe that character along with Cara Dune, along with who knows, maybe Bill Burr's character, some of these collected group of people that would be out there on the fringes of what we see now in space and trying to go after and learn more about what's going on with well, it's not the First Order at this point, but with everything that's going on with the Empire, the remnants of it. So we really don't know. It's all speculation at this point. But of those two things, I got to stop there and just say, you know, where's your head at in terms of this? I'm specific. Well, one of the things I'm curious with is Yasha, because last time when we talked, you were saying how you kind of been watching The Mandalorian, but you'll get to it when you do. You enjoy it and you like it, but it's not been feeling that need as in last season when it made you immediately want to tune into it. So uh, hearing these announcements of these spinoffs, is that anything that you're more excited about, or you kind of still just sort of like in a maybe wait and see mode?
Well, I'm to address that. Like my excitement for Mandalorian has increased exponentially in the past two episodes. I'll just put that out there. I have
Nice.
thoroughly enjoyed the past two episodes. I have watched the latest one, so I'm all caught up. Usually, when we have a show, it's like, oh, I haven't gotten
Wow.
to it yet, type of situation. So I am all caught up, and I've really enjoyed the past couple of episodes and where they're going and what they're doing. It seems a lot more exciting. I guess I don't know. Maybe it's the conflict that they've been addressing or the people that they've had on the show, but I'm really enjoying it. The new Rangers one, I'm not gonna lie, I really don't care. Like I don't need to. I don't need a show about the new Rangers. I don't. Maybe it's because I don't know how they're going to do it or what they're going to do when it comes to the show. Ahsoka, is that how you pronounce her name? Is that it?
Mm-hmm. Ahsoka, yeah.
I am genuinely excited to see where that's going to go. And like you said, Bobby, I don't think you cast a talent like um, oh, her name
Rosario
just
Dawson.
left me. Yeah, Rosario
Rosario
Dawson.
Dawson.
You don't. Yeah, you don't cast a talent like her with no intention of exactly moving on and having its own spinoff. I really think that her appearance and her powers and everything like that was just the test the waters type of situation. Is like, and I really think they're waiting to hear what people thought of that interaction and her character. And then that Monday morning, they probably greenlit that right away and got that set up for the announcement on Thursday when it came to the show, because her character was amazing. And I think, as I said, the more I've learned about the character and the deep dive that I've done, it's gotten me interested in watching um, the Clone Wars online again, learning more about her character, seeing what she's a bit about, learning a little bit of her relationship with Vader. All of that stuff has really got me excited to learn a lot more about her character. So I'm not surprised that they're doing a show. I'm really more excited to see the finished product, because hopefully it'll be just as great as they did with the tidbit that they did on a last episode.
So where are you at with it,
That
David?
answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where am I at on both of those?
Yeah.
I would say well, to talk about Ahsoka first, I'm with Yasha. Like, I'm not as familiar with the character since I haven't watched Clone Wars and Rebels, and I mean, honestly, this was really her appearance in The Mandalorian was my first, exposure to that character, and I'm excited about that show. And actually, starting this week, I finally, long overdue, started watching Clone Wars.
Wow.
I watched the Clone Wars film, and then I watched the first 4 episodes. I mean, I know that's like scratching the surface. I have a long ways to go, but yeah, at least I have started watching Clone Wars. So I really do want to try to make my way through that, make my way through Rebels, so I can at least get caught up on that stuff. It's not like I've read every book, but I've listened to some of the audiobooks of some of the canon novels. But yeah, anyway. Oh, go ahead, Bobby.
I was just going to ask, are you watching it in the proper order? There is a specific order that you can't just watch it just based on this is episode 1, this is episode 2. It was not shown, I guess, particularly in the right order, and so there is a specific order. So are you watching it in the actual order as air date, or are you watching it in the proper order that it should be watched in?
I mean, all I have done so far is watched it in order on Disney Plus by episode.
Yeah, that's the wrong order, unfortunately.
Which is kind of insane that that's the wrong order, but okay.
Yeah.
Why is it the wrong order, out of curiosity?
I guess that's just the way it was shown on what was it? Disney? No, I don't think it was Disney XD. I think it was maybe Disney XD that originally showed Clone Wars. That's just how they showed it. But it goes in a weird sort of order. I think you start with the movie. I think you maybe start with episode 19, or I don't know. It's something. It's very much out of order. So there's like a list, I think, on StarWars.net or IGN. If you just type it in proper order to watch Clone Wars or something like that, and
interesting,
show you.
I did not know that. No, I started watching the show. I mean, yeah. I'm only 4 episodes in, but I guess maybe I've watched the end of the season already or something. I don't know.
No, it's not that bad, but yeah, you should.
Yeah. I don't get the impression I've like already like jumped. I mean, I definitely I wasn't watching the episodes going, wait a second, what happened here? Like, nothing felt odd about watching them.
Right. At least not yet, but I imagine that there would be, because you do start to see how certain episodes connect back to back without much time in between, and some of those might be jarring if you all of a sudden sort of saw something else happening. You're like, wait, what happened? I don't remember how they resolved such and such. So yeah, you'll be able to see it at some point if you were to just keep going in order that they have it in on Disney Plus. But yeah, that's one thing. But sorry, continue your thought. I just wanted to check in on that.
So anyway, I'm excited about Ahsoka. That's a show definitely I'm looking forward to. When it comes to what's it called, Rangers of the New Republic, I think I'm with Yasha on that one. Like, on the surface, I basically have almost no interest in it. With that said, I mean, we'll see how it looks, and if it's a good Star Wars show, I'll certainly watch it, and hopefully it'll be a show where it's good enough that there's obviously a reason they're making this. I have faith that
Mhm.
when it finally comes around, I'll enjoy it. But yeah, on the surface, is it something that I'm like, oh man, I want to see this? Not really. I'm good. Like that's kind of where I am with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think that most people are probably on the same page. They haven't heard of it. They have no information about it. They don't know
Right.
who's in it. So why really get too excited about it? Uh, I'll go ahead and say for myself, so I can just sort of get it out of the way and clear the table. Um, I watched this event live, and so I was kind of like, it really for me felt like a Comic-Con atmosphere, sitting in the Hall H as I'm hearing a lot of these different announcements. And I have been a person that's followed along with new canon under Disney for at least the book side, and obviously the films, and now with the Mandalorian. Only thing I've really not delved too much into are the comics. So for me, a lot of the stuff that they're announcing and showing is really a culmination of things that I'd been hoping for since the beginning. So I think, I'm just predisposed, I feel like, to just being completely in the bag for everything that they're announcing, regardless of what little I know or do know. It's like, I feel like the 8-year-old, 10-year-old kid in me is just saying anything that says Star Wars and just loving it just on name value alone, because I just want to see it. I feel like, I was sitting in there watching this meeting, and it was like someone had, all the good stuff and just feeding it into my veins. And I'm just like, sitting there just, yeah, just like keep going. It feels so good. I'm sitting there like overdosing basically, but loving every minute of it. So for me, you won't hear me say too much about a lot of it, other than just I love it. Give me more. Keep giving it to me. So that's how I feel about all the stuff we'll be talking about. But I can understand how most people are probably still a little bit more level about it. Still want to maybe wait and see what some of the stuff is before they get too excited about it. But one of the things that they did announce about these two series is that they take place obviously within the timeline of The Mandalorian, and they are supposed to all culminate in a big event next Christmas or somewhere around that time. My thought, and I think a lot of other people's thought, is that maybe Grand Admiral Thrawn is the big bad of the three different series, possibly of some sort, maybe, who knows. But yeah, for them to all kind of culminate together, it definitely has me thinking of like the Defenders, what they did with Netflix and the shows that they had that were separate shows, and they all kind of came together. So I think that's kind of cool too, that they'll be doing something like that with these Star Wars series.
I mean, the
Let's
Thrawn
see.
thing makes sense. That would be my first guess, based on, not talking spoilers, what we know so far in the Mandalorian. That seems like that could be a pretty good guess. I will say, since you brought up the whole your experience watching the event live, which I didn't do. I was mainly living vicariously through you. You were kind of texting all of us, like telling us what was happening.
I know.
Um, but from my perspective, I was getting information from you. I was, when I had a chance, I was able to check my Twitter feed and, see some stuff on there. And I guess for me, it was a situation of just so much stuff that it was hard for me to get excited about most of it, to be honest. It was like, I don't know. It felt like one of those things like, is this so much stuff like that is just so far off that I'm like, is is it even really going to happen like this? Like, I feel like that's been the case where we've had announcements from studios where, yeah, we're doing this kind of thing. And I'm not saying Disney's guilty of this, at least all that much, but getting announcements for stuff that it's like, yeah, this is like something that sounds like you have done the pipeline and you have a showrunner attached, but that's about it. And how is it really going to play out come however many years it is from now that this is actually going to start going into production or something like that. Like, for instance, Obi-Wan, we've been talking about Obi-Wan for a
Yeah.
while, and they've already run into issues with that, and it still hasn't gone into production, though it sounds like that should happen relatively soon. I mean, Andor, we've
Yeah,
been
I
talking
believe
about
in
Andor
March.
for a long time, and I know that is
Right.
about to really get into it, based on some stuff that we
Hmm.
saw, and I know you'll get into that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was hard for me to hear all of this stuff and get too pumped up about it, kind of like I would in Hall H, because it's like, it almost felt like too much, if that makes sense. I don't know. That may sound silly. Like, how could there be too much of a good thing? But is it too much where it's just like, are you guys just throwing stuff at investors? Like, yeah, we're going to do a Groot show. And we're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's going to be awesome. Like, are you really doing all these things? Or, I mean, I'm sure they are. I'm sure that's the plan right now. But that's why I think I had a hard time really getting too pumped up about the whole like announcement, the whole batch of
No,
announcements.
I actually I can agree with you, and just to interject, I actually kind of side with you on that. Like it just seems like so much stuff, like so randomly, just like, hey, by the way, we're gonna do, have you heard about these 15 shows that we're gonna do? Like, that type of thing. It's just like, wait, no, like, and these are people, like, we're all people that we do deep dives on this stuff, like all the time. Like we're always watching and learning and listening for this type of thing. And the Ahsoka show, like, I mean, I'm sure they don't even have a script for that yet. They have probably just a small outline. And I don't know about the Rogue One, like I feel the same way when it comes to that. And then like, not to jump ahead, but even the droid one is like, I hadn't even heard anything about that. So it's just like, some of the stuff is just like so obscure. I'm more excited about the stuff that they are doing with Marvel, especially because they've been talking about that for over a year, and we finally have release dates for that stuff, than I am for any of the Star Wars stuff that we're going over.
But sorry to take us off track, Bobby. Please continue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
sorry.
worries. No, no worries at all. I asked and I was curious as to where you guys were standing with it, and yeah, I can totally see where you would be thinking that way. I can understand it, and I think that I just, from my standpoint or point of view, uh, I think that now they did have some bumps in the road, at least over in Lucasfilm, with some of the things that they had going on, but they were always, at least they always seemed like they were committed to them, even though they had bumps in the road. They had bumps in the road with Obi-Wan. They had bumps in
Right.
the road with Andor, but they still seem to be pushing for those things to happen. And, we're now starting to see where they're actually this close to production, and things are really starting to move on those. And as you mentioned, the Andor one was one of the ones early announced way back when, and that one's supposed to start shooting fairly shortly here. I think next month at the latest, and that one's supposed to be out in 2022. And we know that this is the Diego Luna character, Cassian Andor, that was featured in Rogue One, getting his own series, and it's with I believe it's Tony Gilroy who is doing the show, doing the series, who actually did a lot on the Rogue One movie. So it's kind of, seems like, to me at least, it's in pretty good hands there. And they did show like a sizzle reel of that in terms of what you can kind of get a little expectation of, and expect to see. But then after that, they went in and started talking about the Obi-Wan series, another one that we've known about for a little while, and it seemed like it was off, and then it seemed like it was on, whether it was going to be a movie or whether it was going to be a Disney Plus series. It was seemed like it was not fully fleshed out until, I think it was, what, D23 last year or the year before. I can't even remember at this point, but where Obi-Wan, when Ewan McGregor came out on stage and they said that they are doing the series. And then now we know that Deborah Chow, who's been working on The Mandalorian, will be running the series. And it takes place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. And one of the things they announced is that Hayden Christensen will be coming back and reprising his role as Darth Vader in this series. So I just think that's awesome. Just because, while I didn't think Hayden Christensen did the greatest job in those original trilogy movies, I still think that them being able to bring that character back, that actor back, and who's more seasoned at this point, probably will have better dialogue, I imagine, and scripting show a difference in that progression from when he was in those original trilogies to now, and just to see what that looks like, him and Obi-Wan seeing each other for the first time since Obi-Wan fought against him, and cut off his limbs. So it'll be interesting to see how that conversation goes. And yeah, I mean, it's just exciting. I love the way that in recent years they've been able to turn negatives into positives with some of the things that people didn't like, and bring it back and twist it and make it in a way that people who maybe softened over the years and say, oh, maybe we were too harsh about certain things, to give them a second chance at redemption, so to speak. And so I'm kind of glad to see that Hayden Christensen will be back for this and see how that goes.
I feel like there's been a decent, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of what you're talking about when it comes to the fandom and Hayden Christensen. I feel like the fandom has kind of embraced him a little more recently. I felt that like when I was at Star Wars Celebration, however many years ago that was now. Like, I guess it wasn't that long ago, but when I was at Star Wars Celebration when it was last here in Orlando, and I think he made an appearance there, and it seemed like he was really well received. And I mean, yeah, there's no doubt his performance in the prequels is not the best, but at the same time,
it's okay.
At the same time, there's a lot of actors that are damn good actors in those prequels that also did not have great performances. And I still believe a lot of it comes down to not so much the actors, but maybe the script and the direction they were being given.
Agreed.
So, I mean, we've seen Hayden Christensen in other stuff, and he's a solid actor. I don't completely
I think he's fun.
Fault him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a fun actor, and I agree with you. I mean, throwing him in there for this movie with this show with Obi-Wan, and when it comes to that, that's just like, I mean, I felt like, okay, does he need the work? Like, because I don't understand why he would really go back. Like, I mean, it might be kind of interesting to see, but I feel like that's them also trying to garner a little bit more attention for it. But I don't understand all the hate for Hayden Christensen, because I think he's a fine actor. I've seen him in other stuff too, and he's like, the guy has chops. Like, he's a fun actor to watch. So it's kind of unfair that people give him so much hate. It's like, especially for his performances in the Clone Wars. Like, I mean, come on, man, that was kind of a little bit of a disaster when you really look at it, like the script and everything like that.
Yeah. Now all I can think about is sand and how much I hate sand. But anyway,
how much I hate sand, bro. Sand is, it's coarse and it gets everywhere. It's like, what? Yeah, that's what fucking good. Sand is, dude. That's pretty good. Do you hate air also? Like, what is that? Like, or rain?
But again, there you go. That's like not his line writing.
Right.
It's someone else's, and he did what he could with it. So it is what it is. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And they also mentioned some stuff that's animated, as Yasha kind of hinted at a little bit earlier. One of those that we didn't really talk about, but a little bit information came out, was the Bad Batch, which Star Wars, based off the Clone, we watched the final season. Those characters were featured in that, and they are getting their own spinoff. And the basic idea of them is that they are experimental clones that didn't kind of turn out right. And in some ways they have a little bit, like, one's really strong and another one's kind of intelligent and has a sort of a mind for, like, I don't know, I guess strategy and stuff like that. And the other one's like the leader. So they all kind of have their own specific quirks and personality things. And this takes place after, I believe it's after Revenge of the Sith. And so the Order 66 has already gone out, and it takes those characters in that world. So it's hard to say whether they would be good guys or bad guys at that point, because if the Order is flipped, then they would all be bad clones. But I don't think they were programmed and worked in a way that they became bad. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. I haven't watched all of Clone Wars myself either, but I've watched enough, and I did watch that final season to know who they are, so that I would probably check out that series once it comes around. Another one announced was Star Wars Visions,
I was
which
gonna
are
say real
animated
quick,
short films.
since you were talking about Clone Wars, sorry, I just looked up what you were talking about with like
Yeah.
the Clone Wars order. This is insane.
Mhm.
Like how bad this order is. Like if I'm reading this right, like the first episode I should watch is like in season 2.
Yeah,
How
there
does-
you go.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
Is it really? Is it like that? It's like
Yeah, it's like a season 2 episode, and then like the 16th episode of season 1, and then the Clone Wars theatrical release, and then like an 2 season 3 episodes. It's sorry. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
It's
Sorry,
it's,
I hate
it's
to cut
messy.
you off, but you were talking about Clone Wars, and I'm like, I can't believe this. Anyway, please carry on.
I'm looking it up now too.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so Star Wars Vision, and it says it's an original series of animated short films that celebrates the Star Wars galaxy through the lens of the world's best Japanese anime creators, and that's coming in 2021 to Disney Plus. So not too much given there, and I think they did show a couple stills, but that's probably the one that I don't know enough about to really get overly excited about it. I think the idea is interesting, but don't know enough to really say like, oh, I'm looking forward to that one until I can get a little bit more of like, are they just redoing stories that we already know and showing it through an anime lens? Or are these all new different stories that take place within the galaxy and universe of Star Wars? Don't know. So I'll be on the lookout for it. And then the other one that Yasha mentioned is, what was it called? The droid, I forget, was it,
It's like
because
a
I don't see it
Droid
on my list
or
here.
something.
Droid Life,
I think a
which
Droid Life
follows R2D2 and C3PO and different stories of them, which, I mean, we've had series like that before, I think, with just those two characters. And I remember there being an animated one back in the day. So that one seems like it's more geared towards the younger crowd, which is fine. I mean, it is Disney Plus, so I think it's good that they should have something for younger Star Wars fans as well as older Star Wars fans like ourselves. Let me see. Then they got back into the live action sector of things, and they said that there will be a Lando series. They did not mention that Donald Glover will be reprising the role of Lando Calrissian. Maybe he's still in negotiations. Maybe they're not going that direction at all. Maybe they're going with Billy D. Williams, but no one knows. They just said that there will be one, and I can get where when you start getting into ones where they're just sort of name dropping things, where it's like, well, what is this? When are we getting this? Like, what is this supposed to mean to me? I don't know. I can totally understand that
Why do we,
when you
why
start
do we need
right?
this?
just dropping stuff. Yeah. Well, see, now that I can tell you, we need anything that's Star Wars that is a name that people will recognize and will bring people in eyeballs to Disney. And again, I would still sort of frame this around the idea that this was an Investors Day thing. So it's like they're looking at it from a perspective of, hey, this is IP people know. This is a series that people will automatically glom onto, and that will bring more people to this platform service of ours. So it's maybe not necessarily a thing of where we might say, why do we need this kind of thing? It's more like, oh, it's anything that has IP value that they know that they can drop down. And if it's at least of a good quality, that people will tune in for it because it's something that they already recognize. Much in the same way that Disney earlier on had announced different things like a Moana spinoff and a Tiana thing from Princess and the Frog and Zootopia and Cars. It's IP that they already know people are aware of, and so it's like, we have this service. Why not put stuff in front of them that we know that they'll probably at least give it an episode or two of a watch, and if it's good, they'll stick around. And we'll also offer some original stuff as well. So I guess that's the plan with any of their different IPs that they own.
Right.
The one that honestly of all the different Star Wars Disney Plus series that they announced that I'm the most interested in was this next one, which we don't know anything about much, but it's called Star Wars The Acolyte. And it says it's done by Russian doll creator Leslie Headland, and it's supposed to at least explore a time during the High Republic era, and have something about with maybe the Sith and the rising of the Sith in a way that the Acolyte is probably a Sith apprentice. We don't know who that would be. The fact that that it takes a place in the High Republic is, I think, why I'm most excited about it, is because this is the first anything Star Wars that doesn't take place in or around the 11 movies that we've had so far of Star Wars, regardless of if it's the first 9 movies or if it's Han Solo or if it's Rogue One. This has nothing to do with any of that. So to me, that's exciting, just to know that we're going to get something in this High Republic phase. And starting next month, Disney will be releasing a lot of stuff around the High Republic with books. There will be comics. There will be also, I think I had heard at one point, maybe something animated that might take place around the High Republic time. So you're going to have a big push for that period of time during the High Republic, which for anyone who's sort of wondering when does that take place in the Star Wars timeline, they say it's about 200 years prior to, I guess, Episode 4, New Hope, or something like that, or maybe even prior to the original, or not original, but Episode 1. So it's 200 years prior to any of the Star Wars stuff that we know.
Yeah, I'd read descriptions of everything, you know, as it was being announced, and of all the stuff that was announced, I agree with you. This one piqued my interest the most, given that it's so separated from everything that we know, and it doesn't just talk about random people in the Star Wars galaxy. It is focusing on the Force and the dark side in this case, I guess, and I guess the Sith. This definitely piques my interest.
So yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's just like, in this news, I wish that they would kind of get back to the conflict of the Sith and the Jedi. You know, a couple of hundred years before the events of the Skywalker family or anything to that nature, and in creating new bad guys that we can really jump onto, or with the Mandalorian, you know, address the fact that, you know, there are Sith, you know, coming back into power, and, you know, the Jedi are still out there, something to that nature, where we kind of get a little bit more of that conflict. Because while I did love and appreciate the balance and the adventures of the Skywalker family, I am interested in seeing more when it comes to the Sith and the Jedi and that conflict and that age-old, you know, conflict, because they really hate each other a lot. Like, I mean, it's very known. So, like, I mean, it would be fun to learn a little bit more about them.
Absolutely. One of the things that I remember Kathleen Kennedy saying when she came on and she was talking about a lot of the Star Wars stuff that they have in the pipeline, she mentioned that there being 25,000 years worth of material in terms of Star Wars that we haven't seen. And that, to me, I didn't catch it the first time I saw it initially when I was sitting down, and I went back and looked at some things, and I noticed when she had said that, I was like, wow, okay, that goes obviously beyond the High Republic and probably back to at least some old Republic. And if you're going back 25,000 years. So I think that there are going to be more stuff of this nature in terms of we getting things that don't go anywhere near and around the Skywalker stories at all. So I welcome that. And I'm sure, like you guys said, that it's something that you'll be interested in seeing, because it's uncharted territory. So it'll be nice to see that. Probably the biggest thing, well, maybe not the biggest thing, but the two things that maybe most in general public might want to know about are any Star Wars movies that are going to be coming out again. And one that they had mentioned, which we had already heard a little bit about in terms of at least someone doing it is that there is the Taika Waititi Star Wars movie. They did confirm that that is again taking place. I think they did confirm it initially, but this is just sort of solidifying that that's the case. And they had a weird. I don't know if you got the picture for this, David. Maybe not, but the logo for it, the Star Wars font and look and design, I found very interesting.
For which one?
Couldn't know what to make of it, really. What's that?
Wait, for which one?
For the Taika Waititi Star Wars film that he's doing.
I don't know that I
There was
saw
just
that.
some interesting. Oh, okay. Well,
Well,
yeah.
I'm gonna look it up now.
It kind of reminded me of a Schoolhouse Rock kind of logo look to it. I don't know. It's very different.
Like,
Very
because I
different.
mean, the
But
movie doesn't have a title, right? Oh, I think I see what you're talking about
no.
now. Oh, yeah, this is. I'll try to bring it up as fast as I can, but well, maybe I won't be able to.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's
Okay.
got. You're right about the Schoolhouse Rock kind of look about it. I don't know if I can pull this one
Yeah,
up.
it's
I'll have to
different.
see if I can find it somewhere else. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interesting, but they didn't say much about it other than, Taika is bringing his particular style and storytelling aspects to this. And so we'll see what that's about.
Yeah.
But the one that they did talk about was Patty Jenkins signing on to do Rogue Squadron, which honestly, just her being able to move over into the Star Wars universe is a good thing because you've seen what she's done already with Wonder Woman, and now Wonder Woman 84 will be coming out. So it's cool that she's being able to move over into the Star Wars universe. And when you hear, I don't know if you guys had saw this, but Patty did a thing that was not connected with the event itself. It was just on a side thing that she did, talking about why she decided to direct this movie. It was really a touching story. She talked about how her dad served in the Air Force and died in service, and he was a pilot, and that she had always dreamed of doing something that could embody and envision those types of fighter pilots and that camaraderie that they share. And that's why she wanted to do something with Rogue Squadron. And the thing that I kept seeing thrown around is that this would be sort of Top Gun in space. And that to me sounds pretty exciting. So I
I
don't
didn't.
need to know much more than that.
I didn't realize they didn't play that during the event because I saw the
Yeah.
clip, and considering how well it was done, I figured it played during the event. I'm kind of surprised they didn't do that. But no, I saw it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say if they did play it, because there was different times within the investor day that they would clips of stuff, but
Hmm.
we as the public didn't get to see it. It was only for the investors. So
Okay.
I don't know if that was during then. I doubt it. I think it still was something separate. But yeah, it definitely didn't play in the terms of I saw it as it was going out during the investors day meeting and them talking about it. So it was absolutely a separate thing. But yeah, exciting to
Yeah.
have her on board.
Oh yeah.
I
So
like
that's
the
kind
idea of
of
Patty.
the gist. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was
I
just
know.
going to
I
wrap it
just
up.
wanted
Go
to chime
ahead.
in on
Yeah.
Patty Jenkins too. I just wanted to chime in on the Patty Jenkins too. Like, I mean, the fact that she has destroyed Wonder Woman and made it absolutely just amazing. Like, I would watch anything that that woman does. Like, I'm all in, especially when it comes to Star Wars and giving her basically unlimited resources to make sure that it happens. I'm sure that it'll be pretty badass.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So that was pretty much the rundown for the Star Wars universe. So they did do some other stuff with some of their other properties that they own. I think Nat Geo and some other things. But the thing that we're here and interested to talk about is the Marvel. Kevin Feige came on stage and start dropping bombs like as he as he does is want to do as if it was Comic Con. And yeah, initially he started off talking about one of the first things that we've known about for a while, and that is coming in January, which is WandaVision, and showed a trailer of that. And, that one is just so interesting in the way that more and more I read about it, the way it was done and the sort of some of the ideas behind it. And, you know, the fact that it's right around the corner is exciting enough to me just to know that we're getting that soon. In fact, um, with the Star Wars announcement stuff, a lot of that is still a little ways off because they're starting to film it. And I feel like we'll maybe get either those spin-off series of the Mandalorian stuff first sometime next year, or it might be at the very latest just that we will still get Mandalorian next year. But with the Marvel stuff, now it seems to be rolling because they did announce that a little bit back that the WandaVision is next month, and then in I want to say let's see, I want to say maybe March, it's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which
Mhm.
then they did show a new trailer for that. Um, and then I believe it's in May that we were getting Loki. So um, jumping right back to the WandaVision stuff, they did say that Wanda will be in the next movie for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And they also said that the events from which WandaVision and Spider-Man 3 will all tie into Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange. So right now you already see how they're starting to seed these things in terms of building to something and the multiverse. And, you know, it's exciting. I think I'm just like completely looking forward to what this means for the Marvel universe. There's obviously been a lot of rumors out there in terms of what's going on with Spider-Man 3 and who's coming back and what they're kind of building to there. They didn't mention any of that there other than just a sentence about the fact that what's playing out there will be a part of what's going on in the Doctor Strange movie. So not much there other than it, for me, feels like WandaVision, even if you don't watch the series, you're going to want to know what happened out of the series so that you can kind of follow along to what comes next, whether it's in Spider-Man 3 or knowing that character Wanda will be in Doctor Strange movie to be able to kind of follow along with that. I didn't know if you guys had anything to say about that, really.
Oh, okay. I was
Sorry,
waiting for more.
I should have asked.
Yeah, no.
Oh no.
Well, I didn't want to
dive
get too
in.
far ahead.
No, no.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's really not much that I can say that I haven't been waiting for and have actually expressly commented on in previous episodes of the show. Just because Marvel has promised these amazing shows and this original content, and we have yet to see any of it. Um, it feels real now. Like, I guess you can say it's just, getting a chance to see a real trailer for the What If series, a real trailer for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We've already seen one for WandaVision, and it's like not just that they're coming out, but they're basically going to, it feels like, lead right into each other. We'll have we'll have WandaVision, and then that'll be probably released on a weekly basis like The Mandalorian, and then it'll bleed right into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which hopefully will bleed into something else, and we'll start to get the What If series or whatever the case may be. So I'm excited. I am really, really excited to see some of these shows. It'll be fun to see these characters that we've grown to love over the past decade now that we haven't seen in a movie and haven't seen any action from in a while. So I'm excited to see where they're going in their adventures. And I'm just, I miss Marvel. I miss Marvel on the big screen. I miss Marvel at home. And,
Mhm.
you know, they've gotten me conditioned to have this, a release every year. And with the way things are, we missed this year of basically a Marvel or two movies coming out. So it's time. Like, I'm ready. I'm excited.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I mean, I'm excited to get back into Marvel, like you're saying, Yasha. It felt like we had Endgame, and what did we have past that? Really,
Nothing.
Spider-Man Far From Home.
which you know how I feel about that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had
Oh.
Endgame, and like it really feels like it kind of ended since then. We haven't had much of anything, so it's good to get back into the swing of things come January with WandaVision, and with these other shows that are definitely going to happen. I mean, hopefully we'll get some of the films we were supposed to have already gotten, like Black Widow, sooner rather than later. Though
Yeah, and I was
yeah, I know you'll probably touch on that, but it sounds like we still don't really know when we're going to get that. Though it doesn't sound like it's going to Disney Plus.
correct. So before I jump into the Black Widow, actually, I wanted to see, did you guys or ask you if either of you had a chance to watch the trailers for Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki? Yasha, did you have a chance to see either of those?
Oh yeah, I think I've watched them each like 2 or 3 times. Like I was definitely watched Winter Soldier. Actually, I think it's just twice. I watched Winter Soldier twice, and Loki twice, and the What If series twice as well. And and I was going to watch them again before the show started, but we just ran out of time, and yeah, I'm very, very excited. Lots and lots of questions about the Loki story, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and he's a character that is definitely interesting. And I just remember being in Hall H when they introduced that show, and what they said, is like, remember, this is Loki after the events of the very first Avengers. This isn't Loki that had kind of went back to being kind of a good guy and having his moment with
Right.
Thor. This is very much the Loki that they took into jail, and I was just like, oh, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've seen the Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and the Loki trailers. I actually haven't watched the What If one.
Okay. I'll be curious to in hear what you think of that. One of the things that Kevin Feige did say about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, he said this was, I forget, I won't get the wording right. He basically said it was a movie done in 6 parts. And oh, that's interesting because I do remember hearing that they shot this like they do a film, in that they weren't shooting episode 1 then episode 2. They shot it like it was one big thing. And if you don't know anything about movies, when you see a script and there's a shooting on that day of shooting, you're not necessarily shooting page 1 of the script. You might be shooting page 30 or page 40, and it's just shot in a different sequence based on when they are on location and how they do things within that nature and structure of shooting a film. So from what I've heard, that's how they did the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And so I expect it to be pretty high quality in terms of visual look of it, but also within the storytelling aspect. So I've heard rumors of some of what that storyline is, but I won't talk about that. I will just say that it definitely is an element of questioning Sam Wilson, questioning the idea of him taking that shield and if he should be the one to do it or not.
Right.
But yeah, looks good, as well as Loki. And like Yasha mentioned, that being the character and taking place after Avengers and seeing that version of Loki again, before he kind of became more softer in a sense, not in a negative way, but just showing more vulnerability and showing more of that love that he has for his brother Thor. This isn't that guy. This is a guy who still kind of has a chip on his shoulder. So it'd be interesting to they go with that and some of the aspects of dealing with time and continuity and seeing how he plays into that. David had mentioned that we didn't know about. What we do know is that it's still set to come out in May. If out the way that they're hoping, at least we will have had a Falcon and the Winter Soldier in March, and then we would have Loki in May, as well as being able to have in theaters the Black Widow film. So, assuming that, I think that their expectation is that maybe, and I don't know because they have not said, but my thought is what they're thinking is that they're going to go and stick firm to the idea of opening up in May, because if you look not just here but internationally, China is still open and their box office is doing very well with a lot of their homegrown films. Something like this would play very well internationally, even if it doesn't get to open in as many theaters here. And so maybe their plan for, if by that time there's not enough theaters open here, maybe it will go to premium Disney Plus and be able to offer that for, I don't know. I don't think they're going to do 30. I think they kind of learned their lesson on that with Mulan. So maybe it'll be something like 20 or 15 on top of that, and to be able to watch it at home and while it's playing in theaters internationally. But that's just my thoughts. I do still think that they plan on holding to it if they did go ahead and announce that it's still coming out in May.
That would be my guess as well. So, I mean,
Yeah.
from what we know.
One of the things that Yasha mentioned, the What If series, basically it's an animated series that shows you and asks the question, what if things that you know were slightly altered and how would that play out? And one of the cool things and interesting aspects of this is that a lot of the original people who did the live action version of these characters are coming back and returning to do the voices for this animated series. And I think that's based on the way it looks and some of these stories that they could tell. It should be a lot of fun to be able to watch that. I'm looking forward to that. And that's supposed to come out in the summer. So again, Marvel is actually giving dates to things, and stuff is like really starting to roll out here. And it'll be nice to have this content while we're able to see it in the early part of the year, as opposed to waiting until fall or late winter here. So this is and David, you did say you didn't have a chance to watch that trailer just yet, right?
No,
Right.
no, I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay.
So good.
So,
good.
yeah, yeah. So one of the other things that they gave us a little bit of a sizzle reel for was Miss Marvel, and just showing that they showed that the actress who was cast and how they did a search, and they had to do it during these COVID times, and even had to give the congratulations over like a Zoom call, and just showed a little bit of the character in terms of some of what she's been. For those that don't know, she's a young girl of Pakistani descent that is going to be based off of her love of the Captain Marvel character. She nicknames and adopts the name that Captain Marvel used to go by, at least in the comics, of Miss Marvel. And we will see her not only in this, but she will also be in Captain Marvel 2, along with Monica Rambeau, who, Monica, if for those who don't know, was the little girl who was in Captain Marvel 1. And that character also appears grown up in WandaVision. So not only will the character Monica Rambeau be in WandaVision, she'll also be in Captain Marvel 2. And she is a character that has a power set, for those who don't know, in the comics. So expect to probably see that as well. Going down the list, one of the things that I was excited about, they announced She-Hulk. And this is something they had said that we were getting, but they had confirmed that Tatiana Maslany will be playing Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk. And one of the things that I thought was cool that they said about that was that they will be bringing back Tim Roth as the Abomination, which we haven't seen since that Hulk film that came out way back in the day, the second Marvel movie of the MCU. So it's obviously been a while. And then also Marvel will be coming as the Hulk, which you would sort of think, because how do you introduce the She-Hulk without giving some aspects of Banner Hulk in there as well? One of the other cool things about it is that I can't remember exactly how Feige described it, but he said it was sort of like a legal comedy series with Jennifer Walters dealing in the world of she's a superhero attorney dealing with the activities of superheroes she typically defends, and that the possibility of seeing some of these characters, he kind of never know who may show up. So to me means like it could be anyone really that could be a superhero and showing up on this series, and you could see anyone like Daredevil or maybe some of the other characters, her having to defend. I can only imagine defend someone like the Punisher or something like that. So it's a really interesting idea of where they could go with it, but get that confirmation. And I think I remember Yasha, when I texted the thing about the Abomination, you were pretty stoked about that.
Oh yeah, well I absolutely um, love Tim Roth. I hope that
Yeah.
it's a little bit more than just all CGI. I mean, I understand his character has to be CGI, but I really have always been a huge fan of Roth and his work, down from television to movies to little known movies that he's done in the past. Four Rooms. Not many people have seen it. I know you guys probably have just because of who you are, but I'm really excited to see that he's coming back, and I think he's a talent that's definitely doesn't deserve to be ignored.
David, feel free to, if you have any thoughts, because I know a lot of this is foreign to you because you don't follow the comics as
Right.
closely, and you've always said that. And so, maybe some of this doesn't shine as much to you just because you're not as familiar. I mean, you've heard the names and you kind of have at least a very slight familiarity with the characters. But, if you do have anything that you kind of at least say something might pique your interest, or you're just kind of sitting back and waiting to see once you can actually see some more of it to get a sample of it before you really can say much, then that's cool too, though.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to a lot of this, especially the Marvel stuff, I'm generally excited about all of it. Uh, Come closer to a lot of it actually happening. I mean, yeah, when we just discussed a lot of the stuff that is coming up soon, and that's great. But a lot of the stuff that is just really more of the announcement, very early pre-production
Right.
phase. It's like, you know, generally speaking, sure, I look forward to anything from Marvel Studios because generally speaking, I think just about everything they do is great. But I mean, I will say, looking at the slate, I kind of have a lot of the titles staring in front of me here, but none of none of them are like a standout. Like, okay, that one I absolutely can't wait for. I mean, in general, I'm looking forward to all of them. Hate to be so
Mhm.
boring about it, but it's just kind of where I am on it right now. If that makes sense.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Have they cast actress that's going to be She-Hulk, or is that still something that's in the?
Yeah.
I
That's
don't know if I
Tatiana
heard.
Maslany.
Okay, it is Tatiana Maslany that's going to be doing She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
I should
So,
say, I guess to finish my answer though, if there were one thing that I'm like, of everything that for some reason, and this is something I know next to nothing about, basically nothing, but for whatever reason, it's kind of piquing my interest, and that's Moon Knight. But that's kind of
yeah.
random why that one in particular maybe interests me more than the others, but it does.
Yeah, so I guess kind of just to move quickly along into some of these.
Yeah.
One of the other ones that they mentioned was Hawkeye, and that we had been seeing some pictures of that, so we know that one's definitely in production and should probably be coming sooner rather than later. In fact, it probably is the next one after the ones that we already know that we're getting in terms of series that we can see, like the Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and WandaVision. This one might be next up. It has Haley Steinfeld playing the role of Kate Bishop, and obviously Remy Renner returning in the role of Hawkeye. And from what I understand, I want to say it's based off of the Matt Fraction, David Aja run in Hawkeye, and that one's not too old. Too old, maybe 5 or 6 years old, if not a little bit more. But it was very highly received, and it had a lot to do with um, like Hawkeye basically taking on neighborhood thugs and this sort of Italian gang. I think I had read a couple issues of it because I knew it was really popular, but I didn't get to get into it too deeply. But knowing that it's based on this specific run that people really love, I'm curious to see how they bring that into live action and do more with this. And as you can kind of some of these series that they've announced, some of these are in it, like Kate Bishop and some other ones that we have coming. Um, those characters are part of a group called the Young Avengers, and so maybe they're going to be building to something of that nature as well, maybe as a Disney Plus series. but maybe it could be live action, or not live action, but in the theater. So don't know for sure, but that was another one. And then getting into where David said Moon Knight was another one we had heard about, and they didn't announce anyone for it other than we had heard rumors that Oscar Isaac will be playing that character. And say too much about it other than we know that in a more recent run night, the character is done as a person that has DI, dissociative identity disorder. And, he's very unpredictable in that way. There used to be a version of the character Mark Spector that was just this mercenary who came across this ability to be able to have these powers granted to him by Egyptian god. And he was very Batman-like. But they did a revamp not all that long ago, maybe within the last 10 years, that made him have this dissociative identity disorder, and brought out that the Mark Spector was one persona of his identities. And so to see a superhero of that nature, I think is completely interesting and different in a way that you haven't seen before. I mean, that's just kind of the concept alone of a character superhero that has different personalities. And there was a rumor that during the casting, before they said Oscar Isaac was coming on, that there was a rumor that Daveed Diggs, who is in Hamilton, and he's been in a few other things, that he was going to be cast in it. And then there was another rumor, and I'm not going to get his name right. I'm going to see if I can look it up right now as I'm kind of talking about it. But there was another rumor saying that the guy from The League, and who also has on Netflix, called Big Mouth, that he's a comedian, that he's also Nick Kroll, that he was going to be cast in it. So people start speculating that they are in it, and they're playing other personalities of this character. So you would have Oscar Isaac, you would have Daveed Diggs, and you would also have Nick Kroll in the series playing this same character as different personalities. But all speculation, and we know nothing yet of it. So I am very curious to see what they will do with it. I used to read Moon Knight back in the day when it was just one character before you had this dissociative identities disorder, and I liked the character quite a bit back then. But I am curious to see this new take on it. Then they started getting into some more of the things where they just started dropping things and saying, here's what we have coming. And one of those things were Secret Invasion, which will see Samuel L. Jackson coming back as Nick Fury and Ben Mendelsohn as the Skrull Talos that he was in Captain Marvel. And they didn't say much other than the fact that this will take place on Earth with Skrulls having infiltrated some of the highest levels of people in the Marvel universe. And I did hear Kevin Feige did say that there was going to be some of this that crosses over into some of the movies, and could be one of their event type movie things. So maybe this is the next big thing after what we had with Infinity War and Endgame. So that'll be kind of cool to see where they go with that, especially knowing the history of the Skrulls and how they pretended to be certain characters that we know and love. So I'll be very curious to see if they do something like that in this series as well. Another one they announced was Ironheart, which is starring Dominic Thorne as Riri Williams, and she's a new character, not all that old in the comic books. A young character who is able to. She's super intelligent, and she was able to create an Iron Man suit of her own, based off of in the comic books. If I remember correctly, she finds something of a discarded Iron Man armor or maybe a piece of it, and she's able to sort of reverse engineer it and build her own suit of armor that she ends up becoming um, Ironheart. And initially, at the time, she was Iron Man, but she what was kind of cool about it was that at that time in the comic books, Iron Man was dead, and that Iron Man was doing the voice, the AI of the suit that she was in. So don't know if maybe we'll get a Robert Downey Jr. appearance as the AI for her suit or not, but I'm curious to see if they do that or not. There's precedence for it. This is well, all I'm saying.
It seems like the kind of thing that could easily happen. That doesn't at all seem like out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I think it would come down to how much money is Robert Downey
Right.
Jr. going to want to stick them up for in terms of
Oh,
coming back
God,
and doing a voice.
It's like, man, you just get
He's like,
you can do your dialogue from home at this point. You don't even have
Right,
to leave.
exactly.
Like,
And he'll still want $50 million for it.
right. Exactly.
So we'll see how that goes. One of the other things that they announced that I thought was pretty cool was Armor Wars, starring Don Cheadle coming back as James Rhodes, War Machine. And it's a story that I remember growing up. I wasn't Iron Man at the time, but I remember the storyline coming at that point. And it was what happens when Tony Stark's armor, or not armor, but his tech falls into the wrong. At that time, I remember that character in the comics, him having to go to all these different people and places that had gotten his tech and having to get that back from them. And it was like this big, huge event kind of thing at the time. I don't get crossed over into too many of the other titles of stuff, but it was a big thing in his own series. And this would presumably be that same storyline, but instead of Tony Stark going back and trying to get this tech, it's James Rhodes as War Machine. And I hadn't thought of this before until someone, I think I was reading something or listening to something, and they mentioned it, and the idea that it be a potential way of still seeing someone like John Favreau as Happy show up in this, because you know he worked so closely with Tony that he would know maybe some, and you could see someone like Pepper Potts show up if she's so willing. I don't know if Gwyneth wants to come in and do an episode or two of this, but who knows? I mean, we're talking Disney and Marvel money. You might get him to come back for an episode. So there's possibilities there. But again, that's just something that I think is exciting, just because you got Don Cheadle and being able to give him more spotlight, because obviously he didn't get to do as much as you would think or would want in the different movies we've seen him in, because he still kind of plays back to Tony Stark in that sense. But now this is him on his own too. And to be able to see him with his own series, I think that should be pretty cool.
Right.
There was mention of a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which is going to be done by James Gunn. He's writing and directing it during the time in which they will be shooting Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And it's something James Gunn said he's wanted to do because he ironically loves the Star Wars holiday special, which I just find funny that he ironically loves it with in all of its cheesiness and such. So I think it really does fit the world and the spirit of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I could completely see them doing something off the wall and weird and fun with that, and that will be on Disney Plus. I think they said in 2022, prior to Guardians of the Galaxy coming out in 2023. Far off, so we kind of a while to wait for that. And then again,
do you think it's going to be like
What's
a
that,
full-length
Joshua?
feature film? How long do you think that's
Oh,
going
no.
to be? Like a full,
I-
like 15, 30 minutes? Or what?
No, I think maybe it'd be like an hour special. You know, I don't
Okay.
think it's going to be anything too long and not too short, not like a half an hour thing. It's maybe, it could be something like, you know, it's around Christmas time and obviously Quill's from Earth, and so maybe we don't know what he does around Christmas time. We've never seen that, and maybe he still celebrates the tradition and he does something, or maybe it ties into something of some sort. Maybe it could be all these little shorts in the way that Star Wars Special was done, and him trying to emulate that in a fun, silly way for Guardians of the Galaxy. Who knows? It'll be interesting because James Gunn always does something pretty interesting and fun. And then they did say there was an I Am Groot short series featuring Baby Groot that will be new and unusual characters. That I imagine that, again, that's going to be for the younger audience, just kind of finally cashing in on that idea of Baby Groot that we saw from back when the original Guardians of the Galaxy at the end, when you see the Baby Groot dancing and stuff. So it seems like maybe it's a little late, but I think that it'll still find its audience, at least within Disney Plus and for some younger viewers. I got to believe that that's who that's aimed at. And they did jump over to talking about Christian Bale being in Thor: Love and Thunder. We had pretty much heard that from before, but they confirmed it, and that he's Gore the God Butcher, which is a newer character from the Jason Aaron run of Thor. That's I would say no more than 5 or 6 years old, maybe. And of course, Natalie Portman will be returning to that as well. One of the other smaller little quick things that they did, they just talked about Ant-Man and the Wasp, and that film will be given the title of Quantumania. And no news about in terms of story, other than to say that the cast is returning that you've seen before. Michelle Pfeiffer, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, Paul Rudd, and that in the role of Cassie Lang, Newton will be coming into the movie, replacing the actress, whoever, I'm not sure of her name, that was in Endgame. So they're switching out those actresses for that role. And then they did say that Jonathan Majors will be joining the cast as Kang the Conqueror. And Jonathan Majors was last seen in Lovecraft Country, for those who did watch that, the main character. And then I think the last thing that they announced was that the director of Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, John Watts, will be directing Marvel's first family of the Fantastic Four, which, it's been a long time coming. They bought the Fox properties at least, a year or two ago, and people have been waiting to see what they are going to do with it. And now we know that they have the director for the Spider-Man films going to be directing this. And that's all they said. No announcements, no John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, nothing of that nature. Just said that we have this movie and we're bringing it to you. I think that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bobby, but it's like I gotta anticipate and/or hope that they at least had the conversation with Krasinski, because the fans are really vying for him to be a Mr. Fantastic, like Reed Richards. They really want him to do that character. Everybody thinks that he would really do an amazing job, myself included. So I just, you got to hope and really think that they're like, okay, well, like, Marvel does a pretty good job, not always, but they do a pretty decent job of like trying to give the fans what they want. Like, hey, like, this is something that people are really excited to see. Let's at least have the conversation and see if this is even something that Krasinski would want to do. Because more than likely, whoever's doing the Fantastic Four roles, they're going to be tied in for probably anywhere from 3 to 6 movies minimum.
Yeah. And I think I did hear at one point that John Krasinski had came into the studios and had been talking to Marvel. So don't know if it was this specifically. They didn't say that, but you got to imagine it may have came up in conversation. But that's pretty much it. The only other thing I can think of that they mentioned that I didn't really talk about was Blade, and other than just saying that it's being in development and that they're working on it currently. Oh, and then they did also say, now that I think of it, yes, they decided at this point to make the hard decision to not recast for Black Panther. They will just be leaving that as Chadwick Boseman's legacy and developing a story for Black Panther 2, which will come out, I think they said, in July of 2022. But there is no recast. So I had talked about this to David, but I don't know, Yasha, in terms of how you feel about the idea of this and where you kind of come down on it.
That's a hard question because on one hand, I can really appreciate what they're doing and what they're trying to do for that role and that character, and for Chadwick Boseman because he was a very special talent. Um, I had brainstormed with a few friends the other day, like who we thought could actually um, who could actually replace that character. I came up with some good ones. There's only like a handful of them. Like I don't remember them off the top of my head right now, so you'll have to forgive me. I'll bring them up maybe the next show. But it would be hard to replace a role that he really did encompass and embody in a couple of movies. You know, like already, like we saw him in Civil War and then his own role movie, right? And then the End Game and Avengers. Um, Infinity Gauntlet, and then the End Game. So it's like he was there, but like in those last two movies, he wasn't super prominent. But I don't know how you would replace that. Like I don't know how you replace him when it comes to that. Like you can't. Just doing a dedicated to in the loving memory of Chadwick Boseman at the end of the movie just doesn't seem like enough. You know, when it comes to that role. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I can see him trying to. I have no idea where I stand with that. Like I would love to see the character again on screen, but at the same time, I don't know how they would do it. And I think that's wherein lies the problem with them too. So they don't know how to do it, so they're just going to not do it.
Right. Yeah. And, I think that's the best thing that in terms of what they're feeling as well, and is that they don't know how to do it. So they're just not going to do it. I know for me personally, I've always felt that regardless of its case or any cases in the past, that I've always been on the standpoint of the character. And while I may love who's portraying the character in that portrayal, I've always glommed on to wanting to see stories of the character. So in this case, even though I love Chadwick Boseman's portrayal of T'Challa, that character's been around for so long, and to just sort of wipe him out now, it leaves a
It's
hole
hard.
to me. I mean, it's like so many kids went to go see this movie because not necessarily, and rest in peace Chadwick Boseman, but not necessarily to see Chadwick Boseman playing this character, but they wanted to see T'Challa. They wanted to see Black Panther. And so
Yeah.
now to say we'll never get that, and that character is just not going to be around anymore. That really sucks that now kids who saw that character, the question will be, well, Mom, what happened to Black Panther? And they'll just say, oh,
Yeah.
well, however they explain it in the movie, that would be the answer. But yeah, it's just rough. And there was no in terms of being able to do this, knowing that we're going into production and knowing that this film will be out in 2022, because then it maybe feels like it's too soon to be able to see a recast and see this character done again so soon. Had there been maybe a little bit more space and time, and say this movie isn't coming out until 2024, and you're able to sit with that and give that the maybe, I wouldn't say proper amount of time, but you're giving it a little more time than what we already have, then maybe people would be more amiable to the idea of a recast and someone coming in and picking up that legacy and continuing on what Chadwick Boseman started. But I think because of how close it is, they didn't feel comfortable doing that. So my biggest thing I felt like was that maybe you don't do it for this movie, but then you do it down the line. But then when Kevin Feige kind of said that we won't be bringing that character back, it kind of closes the door on it. So I felt like maybe they shouldn't have closed the door on it, just to say that, this next movie will not feature the character, and maybe we will address it at some other time, or in some way that makes it to not close the door. But now we know that, and so now it's a question of who will be that character, because it's still called Black Panther 2. So I imagine that um, role will be, that title will be passed on to someone else. And based on the rules that they've set up for that movie, I'm curious to see how they do that, because there was no more of that fruit that could be consumed to give you the Black Panther abilities. In order to be Black Panther, typically you have to fight for it, and fight for it without the abilities of the Black Panther. Maybe that goes out the window when someone dies, and it's not that way. And maybe Shuri steps up, and the story could be that she doesn't want to be it, because she didn't seem to want to be it in the first movie. So maybe she doesn't want to be it here, but she kind of has to be it by default. And her dealing with being an unreluctant ruler, and not necessarily having powers like Black Panther, but using a suit and her tech to be a Black Panther. I mean, maybe, but I still do feel like, for me, there will be a hole and something missing not having T'Challa there, especially if maybe the rumors were true, end up being true, in that we would have someone like Namor being introduced into the MCU and going to battle against Wakanda with Atlantis. That was a straight up good series of stuff that happened in the comics, with T'Challa versus Namor and stuff like that. And so we wouldn't get to see it from that angle again. But yeah, I think, to me, it was a hard decision, but it just sucks that they sort of just kind of really just took that character off the board completely. But David, I've sort of droned on enough about it. If you want to give your thoughts on it.
I mean, I don't really have anything to add that you didn't say. I'll just say that I agree with you. I've felt ever since the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman that, I don't know. I've felt ever since that it should be recast. It seems like the character is too important, and we've seen so little of the character to not recast it. Just doesn't sit well with me. And the general reaction since his passing has seemed to be the opposite, at least the vocal majority. There's a vocal majority, at least since his passing, that seems to really be out there, like saying, oh, no, never recast it. And I feel like maybe that's changing a little bit more lately. We're hearing more and more people share this opinion that maybe it should be recast. But I mean, I feel like no matter what they do, it's going to be handled well. But if it were up to me, I feel like I would like to see more of T'Challa, and I think it's unfortunate he only got one full film to himself, and as you mentioned, Yasha, parts in 3 other movies. But yeah, to close the door on it, like you're talking about, Bobby, to just say straight up, hey, we're not going to see this character ever again. Yeah, I think that's unfortunate. I'll of course be curious to see how they handle it, not having the character at all in the next film, and I do get that perspective of, hey, maybe they're just going this direction because they don't know how to handle a recast. It does seem like it's too bad they couldn't just hold off on Black Panther 2 for a longer amount of time, to give us more time to kind of handle a recast, kind of like what you touched on, Bobby. It seems like maybe that would have been a good option, but yeah, if Black Panther 2 has to happen when it's going to happen, then I don't know. It's obviously, there's no easy answer to any of it, but I think it's a bummer.
So to see what Ryan Coogler has.
What's that, Yasha? Sorry,
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was like, I'm interested to see what Ryan Coogler has planned.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But I think it's unfortunate that they've, like you said, Bobby, just closed the door. Like, it's one thing to go, hey, in the next film, we're not going to see him for whatever reason they would have to give, and then have him come up in the next film. But to just straight up say, hey, no, that's it, we're not going to recast the role ever. I don't know. That it doesn't seem like the right move, but again, whatever I think they do, it'll be handled in the right way.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, that's it. Unless there's anything else you guys want to chime in about, but that's pretty much all of the good stuff that they had offering for Star Wars and MCU.
no, yeah, I mean that's just just Star Wars and MCU. We didn't even touch on a ton of other stuff that was brought up just on the Disney side of things, even some other
Right.
Lucasfilm stuff. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
what there was a Willow announcement of some kind. I don't know. I'm not even familiar what
Hmm.
that was. I know it sounds like something was mentioned about Indiana Jones. Um,
Yeah.
there was a lot that we could have dug into, and maybe when we do our next episode, we'll have an opportunity to touch on some more of it. But yeah, for now, we tried for an hour. We did an hour and a half. We did okay. We could have done more.
Missed the mark, but yeah, we definitely could
but
have
it's
done
all
more.
right. So yeah, with that, we are going to wrap things up and get out of here. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. First of all, you can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to comment down below. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you have enjoyed what you've seen so far, and hit that bell icon to be notified when we post a video or go live in the future. You can also reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at Flicker_effect. And yeah, I guess that basically covers it. My name is David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
And I'm Yasha Wilson.
Thanks for listening and watching.